Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on something that, let's be honest, can be super frustrating. How do some students just seem to get it, you know? Well, it's not about being a genius. Turns out it's a whole series of clever strategies, almost like a secret game plan for acing exams. So let's dive in and crack the code of the topper's secret.
Have you ever had that feeling? You pull an all-nighter, you feel like you know the material inside and out, but your grades just don't reflect it. And at the same time, your classmate, who seems to be chilling half the time, just walks away with an A. What is going on there? What do they know that the rest of us don't?
And this right here, this slide breaks it down perfectly. On the left, that's a lot of us, right? We're buried in books, measuring our success by how many hours we put in. But on the right, that's the smart worker. They aren't just throwing time at the problem, they are literally designing a plan for success. It's not about working more, it's about working with a purpose.
You know, the source for this explainer has this great word for it, chalaki. Now, this isn't about cheating or trying to find weird loopholes. It's a mindset. It's about being clever, about being strategic. It's about getting the absolute biggest bang for your buck time-wise. You could even call it the secret sauce.
So how do we get this chalaki? Well, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by knowing our battlefield, which is the syllabus. Then we'll get into managing our time, making sure what we learn actually sticks, and finally, testing our skills under pressure. It all comes together to form your personal smart study blueprint. So let's jump into the first step.
All right, secret number one. And honestly, this is the foundation for everything else. You have to know your syllabus. I know, it sounds so basic, but most students just kind of glance at it. This isn't just a list of topics, people. It's your treasure map to a good grade.
And this quote right here, it's a total game changer. Think about it. We're so focused on cramming everything in our heads, but the smart student knows that's a huge waste of energy. The real skill is figuring out what's not as important so you can double down on the topics that are going to get you the most points.
So how do you actually do this? Well, it's a simple four-step process. First, you really dig into that syllabus. Then, and this is absolutely crucial, you get your hands on at least 5 years of past exams. This is your intel. You'll start to see patterns, like which topics come up all the time, which questions are worth the most marks. That's where you focus all your energy. See, you're not just studying anymore, you're playing the game.
Okay, so now you've got your treasure map. But a map is totally useless if you don't actually go on the journey, right? And that brings us to secret number 2, valuing your time. This is where we build a consistency that will actually get us to that treasure.
We all know this monster, don't we? Procrastination. That little voice that says, I've got plenty of time, I'll just start tomorrow. The source for this explainer calls this the single biggest obstacle to success, and I think they're spot on. Tomorrow is where all our good intentions go to die.
So, how do we slay this monster? It really comes down to a few key habits. First, just make a promise to yourself to stop cramming. Even 30 minutes a day is so much better than a frantic 10-hour marathon right before the exam. It's about building a strong foundation, brick by brick, every single day. And just as importantly, you have to believe you can do it. Your mindset is half the battle.
And to help with that focus and consistency, some people find that practices like mindfulness or even prayer can be really helpful. The whole idea is that taking just a few minutes to quiet your mind can actually make your study sessions way more effective.
As one example of this, the source video points to an app called Sri Mandir, which has tools for virtual worship and for listening to mantras. The idea is simply to have a dedicated space for this kind of practice, if it's something that works for you.
Okay, so you're studying consistently, you're staying focused. But how do you make sure all that information actually sticks in your brain? That brings us to secret number 3, retention. Let's make sure all our hard work doesn't just go to waste. Get this, a study that was mentioned in our source material found that we forget 70% of new information within 24 hours. 70%! That's just insane, right? It means that without one key habit, most of your studying is basically pointless. And what's that habit? Revision.
This quote really hits home. It's so much better to be a master of one thing than a jack of all trades. So instead of skimming 10 different textbooks, pick 1 or 2 great ones and get to know them inside and out. It's all about depth, not just checking boxes.
And here's the ultimate test, from the man himself, Albert Einstein. The absolute best way to know if you really understand something is to try and teach it to someone else. Grab a friend, a family member, or hey,
Even just talk to your reflection in the mirror. If you can explain it simply, you've got it. If you start stumbling, you know exactly what you need to revise.
This brings us to our final, and maybe the most important secret of them all. You know the material. You've remembered it. But can you actually deliver when the pressure is on? This is where we separate the good students from the truly great ones. It is time to test yourself relentlessly.
So, why are sample papers the ultimate weapon in your arsenal? Well, look at this. Are you worried about running out of time? Doing sample papers builds your speed. Scared of making silly mistakes? Well, you'll make them here where it doesn't count. Feeling anxious about the exam itself? Doing these simulations will make the real thing feel like just another practice run. It's a win-win-win.
But listen, here's the one rule you absolutely cannot break. You must use a timer. No excuses. Just doing the questions isn't enough. You have to feel that clock ticking down. That is the only way to know if you're truly prepared for the real deal.
So let's put all of these pieces together. We've just built a complete blueprint for studying smarter, not harder. This isn't magic. It's a system that actually works.
So here it is, your blueprint for success. Number 1, strategize. Analyze your syllabus and past papers first. 2, be consistent. Study a little bit every single day. 3, revise and teach. Make that knowledge permanent. And finally, number 4, self-evaluate. Test yourself under pressure over and over and over again.
Look, this isn't just another list of tips. This is a whole new way of thinking about studying. You now have the exact same blueprint that top students use to get ahead. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with it? Which one of these secrets will you start with today? The power is in your hands.